A 2x4 plank just became a political weapon, and your future home could be collateral damage. Canada and the US are now in a full-scale trade war over lumber, and it's spiraling fast. Here's what they're not telling you. For years, American leaders, Donald Trump among them, have declared that the United States can stand on its own when it comes to lumber, that its vast forests could supply every beam, plank, and 2x4 the nation might need. But in 2025, that confident promise is colliding head-on with reality. What started as a low-level trade disagreement over timber prices has exploded into a high-stakes border showdown. It began with a sharp tariff hike out of Washington, one that construction firms never saw coming. Within hours, the move had jolted the entire building industry, and just as quickly, Canada answered, not with a press release but with the threat of cutting off the US from one of its most vital building materials. And that was just phase one. The real shock? It's still coming. On one side, tariffs are climbing. On the other, the door to Canadian softwood lumber is swinging shut. The result? A supply chain crisis that could hit every corner of America's housing market. And behind every plank not shipped is a decision that carries consequences far beyond just dollars and cents. Why does this matter? Because Canadian lumber isn't some luxury import. It's the backbone of U.S. home construction. Roughly 1/3 of the wood used in American houses comes from across the northern border. Pull that away, and you're looking at shortages, price spikes, and stalled building projects from coast to coast. Before we dive in, tap like and hit subscribe. It's a small click that shows this content matters and helps unlock the truth hidden behind closed doors. The first blow landed last August, when the U.S. Commerce Department raised duties on Canadian softwood lumber to nearly 15%, almost doubling the previous rate. Canada called it punitive, but it was only the beginning. By mid-July 2025, Washington went further, slapping a 35% blanket tariff on all Canadian lumber. The effect was immediate. Canadian producers began signaling they might respond with hard export limits, a quota system designed to keep more wood inside Canada for domestic use. And in a country experiencing its own construction boom, those limits could be tight. To grasp the scale, consider this. Canada typically sends about 28 million cubic meters of lumber to the US each year. That's enough to frame hundreds of thousands of homes. Cut even part of that flow, and the US would be forced to scramble for alternatives, most of them more expensive and slower to arrive. American mills can't simply fill the gap overnight. Red tape, environmental rules, labor shortages, and recent wildfire damage have all slowed domestic logging and sawmill expansion. Even if producers wanted to, ramping up output could take years, not months. And those delays are already echoing through planning meetings and construction timelines across the country. Meanwhile, Canada has options. Thanks to trade agreements with Asia-Pacific nations and Europe, Canadian wood products can enter markets like Japan, Australia, and Germany with little or no tariffs. That means Canada can sell its lumber elsewhere at full price, while American buyers are stuck paying extra. And they may not just export raw planks. Canadian producers are increasingly shifting toward value-added products, engineered wood panels, prefabricated walls, even entire building components that can bypass the steepest U.S. tariffs. The more Canada moves in this direction, the less raw lumber is left for the U.S., and the higher American prices climb. The stakes reach far beyond construction sites. Housing affordability, already stretched thin by high mortgage rates, could take another hit. Analysts warn that these combined tariff and quota pressures could add $10,000 or more to the cost of a new home within 2 years. Renovation budgets will swell. Infrastructure projects will see delays, and small-town economies tied to building activity could feel the squeeze first. Local suppliers, contractors, and even hardware chains are beginning to feel the heat. The political backdrop only raises the temperature. Washington sees the tariffs as a way to protect U.S. forestry jobs. Ottawa sees them as an unfair trade barrier. Neither side wants to blink first. But the longer this standoff lasts, the more ordinary people, homebuyers, contractors, retail workers, will bear the cost. This isn't just about lumber, it's about leverage. Canada is signaling that if the US pushes too hard, it can reroute its trade elsewhere. And that kind of strategic shift could take years to reverse, even if the dispute ends tomorrow. For now, the border is still open to lumber, but each week brings new signs that the flow is slowing, and that both countries are digging in for a long fight. The next phase could determine whether U.S. housing stabilizes or spirals into another wave of shortages and soaring prices. And if that happens, the bold talk about never needing Canadian wood might go down as one of the costliest miscalculations in recent trade history. So the question isn't just who wins this standoff, it's how much both sides are willing to lose to prove a point.